Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon to people in other time zones. I guess actually this time zone because we're doing this program in the afternoon in the United States and in the evening in Europe. I'm Steve Farrell, the Worldwide Executive Director for Humanities Team, and welcome to the Living in Oneness Summit. It's great to be with you today. I'm going to be interviewing a very special guest today, Michael Kramer. Michael has demonstrated a lifelong commitment to personal and global sustainability. His efforts in the fields of social services, education, environment, economics, and planning reflect his holistic and creative capacity and his passion for creating change in the world. Michael is the co-author of The Resilient Investor, a book that talks about investing with our values in the forefront. I'll be introducing Michael shortly. We're all really excited about today's program. We have about 20,000 registered for today's call. Some cannot listen in live, so we send out a recorded link so these people can listen in later. Thank you so much, everyone, for prioritizing time to be here for this important conversation. This call is interactive with each of you, our listeners, so as we do each week, we want to invite you to go ahead and put your questions and your comments in the question window on Instant Teleseminar. I promise we'll get to at least a few of your questions during the hour. You might go ahead and start now if you like. A little about Humanities Team as we get started. In Humanities Team, we see there is only one presence, the divine, and see we are all offspring and expressions of the divine. This means God's love, light, grace, and peace are ours because there is no separation and we share the same essence. We don't share this as something academic or intellectual. We believe everyone and everything is a beautiful and sacred face of the divine. Since our founding in 2003, we've done our best to live as one with the divine, each other, and our earth home. We don't need to be perfect. It doesn't have to feel heavy. We must only do our best, and as we'll demonstrate on this call, you can actually have fun with this. When we talk about oneness with the divine, of course, this is true for all of life, not just humanity. This has repercussions for how we see ourselves, others, and the earth that is our home. This means everyone and everything is sacred and should be treated as such. It also means we're responsible for the world around us because, in truth, it's part of our authentic self, encompassing the whole of the earth. Perhaps there's nothing more important than this, coming to see ourselves as a cell in the body of the divine, the earth, and stepping into a role where we are caring for the earth and the world that we live in. This is important and urgent work. We are advocating personal development that crosses over into all of our roles, including that of partner, parent, and public service, but also institutional change, so we live as one collectively and create a fulfilling, compassionate, and sustainable world. If you resonate with our work, we invite you to go to the humanitiesteam.org website and reach out to us about projects that you might like to become involved in, and again, that's humanitiesteam.org. Okay, please get comfortable as we begin our program. I'm now going to introduce our special guest. Michael Kramer is Managing Partner and Director of Social Research at Natural Investments, a founding B Corp and sustainable, responsible, and impact investment advisor. He oversees the Natural Investment Social Rating, the Heart Rating, of domestic SRI mutual funds at naturalinvestments.com and socialfunds.com. Mr. Kramer is co-author of The Resilient Investor, a plan for your life, not just for your money. Mr. Kramer serves on the policy committee of USSIF, the Forum for Sustainable and Responsible Investment. He publishes the Sustainable Shareholder column at greenbiz.com. Mr. Kramer is a co-founder of High Impact, Impact Hub Honolulu, and the Hawaii Alliance for a Local Economy. And welcome to the Living in Oneness Summit, Michael. It's great to have you with us today.
Well, aloha. Thanks for having me. Thrilled to be here.
Awesome. And Michael is based in Hawaii, so that's why we're doing a little later call today. And lucky Michael, wouldn't we all like to be in Hawaii at this time?
It's a rough life, but somebody's got to live it.
Somebody's got to do it. That's right. Well, I was born over there, so I guess that's my claim to fame. Okay. Well, let's jump right in here, Michael, because there's so much that we can cover that I'm looking forward to getting to. I have your book right here with me, actually, The Resilient Investor. It's an awesome book, so there's a lot that we can talk about. But let's start at the top. You co-wrote this book. Again, it's called The Resilient Investor, a plan for your life, not just for your money. Can you just talk about this from the top? Just what were your general thoughts and what was your vision when you put together this book? It's awesome.
Why, thank you. Yeah, well, we've written two other books, Investing from the Heart back in 1990 and Investing with Your Values in 99. And rather than write another book that talked about how to align your values with your money, we really felt like times were different now, that with the downturn of 8 years ago and all the general jitteriness in the world, part of that is the interconnectedness of everything and the instant access to information. We're so hyper aware now of all the problems in the world, and those problems have gotten more serious: climate change and geopolitical unrest, et cetera, not to mention economic class gap widening. So it just seemed like sustainability, for all its, I often tell people it was my first true love 25 years ago as sort of a concept, and we've had a very long and thrilling monogamous committed relationship, but I'm ready for an open marriage because I just don't think it's enough. And so resilience is kind of my new love, and I think it's more suited for the era in which we are living in, which is a lot more volatile and uncertain than the world was 25 years ago. And that's what spawned the book. It's really like, well, sustainability has only gotten us so far as an organizing principle, and capital in and of itself has only gotten us so far. So I think that we wanted to be much more holistic in our thinking and also really try to think about how we navigate the sort of insanity that seems to be all around us.
Yeah, boy, you can you can say that again. By the way, Michael, you do near the end, your sound quality was pretty good, but as you were talking, there were some moments where it got a little garbled, and I'm not sure if there's any adjustment there to your headset or phone, but I'll just mention that.
Okay. Thank you. I'll do my best.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I love this book is really it's refreshing. It as you mentioned back before I read the book that bookstores often aren't even sure where to place the book, and I can see why, because it's like the difference between financial wealth and true wealth. You're getting into a discussion of true wealth. Yes, there's the financial part of where do I make my investments and things, but you're expanding the definition of wealth to include our values insofar as lifelong learning and community and many things. It's wonderful. So I just want to.
Thank you. We really think that your real net worth includes your personal and your tangible assets, which we all have. So your time and your energy are investments. So we really broadened the idea and expanded the idea of investing to include that. The traditional idea that investing is about money and the purpose is to make more money. Well, that's not really the meaning of life. We all know that. But we didn't really see any way to really think holistically about your whole life as an investment. And that's why we wanted to expand the definition, because our time and our energy are essential. And we can reinvest capital and money in order to fulfill our personal and community goals and spiritual goals and goals to protect and preserve and regenerate natural systems. But we really wanted to create a framework of how do you really organize your time, energy, and money in a way that you can do all of that and really design it accordingly. So we really think this is a life planning framework rather than an traditional investing book.
Yes, it is that, and of course it has the traditional investment as well, but it is much more. It's an expanded vision for true wealth. And I'm looking right now, Michael, at page 9, where you create the resilient investing map, what you call RIM. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because this is a helpful diagram that really brings out what exactly we're talking about, all of the expanded definition of wealth here.
Sure, and for people who don't yet have the book, this all is very visible on our book's website, resilientinvestor.com. But basically the idea is that we have three kinds of assets, as I've alluded to. And, we know we have financial assets, but there's also personal and social assets. These are, everything about you and what makes you who you are. It's how we learn. It's our spirituality. It's our primary family relationships. It's the relationships we have in the community. It's the sort of social network that really props up our very existence. It's our career. It's our lifestyle. It's how we get involved in our community. and all the personal practices that we engage in that can really help us to cope with the challenges of daily life. So these are assets, and tangible assets are obviously things that we can touch and feel in our immediate surroundings, everything from our home to everything that we need for our survival, our food, our water, our energy, our shelter, all the local food that we can get from nearby, and resources that we can share with one another. And those assets also include things that we can procure from outside the local community, and of course nature itself, which needs to be vital and healthy. There would be no economy without it. And then we obviously have financial assets. So we have these three asset types. And so our non-drint, which is a 9-box grid, essentially has 3 rows with the personal, tangible, and financial categories horizontally. And then we have 3 investment strategies that we organize our thinking. So you can have each of these 3 assets, but then you can actually invest in those 3 in 3 different ways. And those are the vertical columns of our grid. And the first strategy is what we call close to home investing. And that can be done at the personal, tangible, and financial level. And the second category is the sustainable global economy. It's how do we participate non-locally in making a difference in creating the world that we wish to see and be part of. And then evolutionary is the third investment strategy, which is creating new systems. And this can be both new systems for yourself, how we molt and evolve as consciousness. It can be helping to create regenerative natural systems, as well as new financial systems that can replace the exploitive ones that currently are in place. So, and then there are details that we can get into through this conversation about what are the specifics in each of those. But it's because you have 9 different areas. One of the things that makes it holistic is that we're not just talking about what to do with your capital. We're not just talking about, buy this stock or buy this bond to try to, make some more money. It really is about how do we become personally more resilient? How do we help our communities to become more resilient? How do we help nature and the ecological system become more resilient? And essentially human civilization itself, because, we definitely see our priorities are not what they could be. And we see our role as helping to evolve consciousness so that we can make human civilization much stronger. And I think we need to pay attention to this because of the volatility and the uncertainty and the ambiguity of current reality. And how do we be prepared and ready for any possible, future scenario that might unfold? And I'm not a doomsdayer, but I think we need to imagine various possible scenarios that could unfold and be prepared. That's kind of the central core thesis of resilience, is being ready for anything. And I can go into more of that, but I'll stop there for a moment.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, let me share. Questions are coming in from listeners here. We'll get to some of your questions here in just a moment. So thanks very much to those of you that are already sending questions in. Yes, one of the things, Michael, you share in your book relating to what you just were discussing, you said, we believe investing should support financial goals, buy a house, start a business, and it should support the bigger and deeper and more profound purpose of a life, Aristotle's blessedness. Investing can help each of us live a better life, and it can help improve communities and build a better world for all, which, of course, as I was sharing what the Focus of Humanities team is, that's just right on target there, isn't it? It's really seeing that we are all, there's this interconnection, this oneness, and we want to create prosperity and flourishing for ourselves and our family, but also for our community and the world around us.
Yeah, I think sometimes people don't realize that money is just an energy and it is neutral. It doesn't really have value other than what we ascribe to it. So we have all seen the power of money in a negative way. And that being said, money can be used to do incredibly positive, wonderful things. It just requires dedication and focus and strategy to make that happen, not just in your own life, but to also help create a more self-reliant and resilient community, and also to change capitalism as a whole across this planet. And I I'm an optimist. I believe we can do it. We just have to become much more serious about it, and I hope have more global consensus about that priority, which we don't currently have. There's still a lot of exploitation of people and nature going on, justified by profitability, and that is not at all what we're trying to aim for. We can see that that's not really working.
Yeah, boy, that's for sure. We were, Michael and I were talking before the program a little bit about what's going on in the area of commerce and business, and he's very involved in B Corps, certified B Corps, and the whole B Corp movement, and has won some awards, which is really exciting. He won the best for the world award, which is for the top B Corps worldwide. And then, as you all, as our listeners know, we're one of the NGOs that created this Conscious Business Declaration and this whole Conscious Business Initiative that is focused on precisely this, that we must move beyond this almost exclusive focus on profit, because businesses don't operate in silos. They're generators, and we can generate good things, or we can also generate bad things. And we've come to this point where we share this planet, and we want to make sure that we're making profits. We'll go out of business without profits, but we want to make our profits by being a generator of good things that are supporting the community, supporting the world around us. And certainly the B Corps are a great example of that. And this initiative we have, the Conscious Business Initiative, is another example of that. Well, let's see here. I wanted to just bring in some other comments, other items from the book that, one thing we might do, Michael, is I love is it's expanding the definition of wealth. It's bringing in how we can focus our spending, in some cases, on I'll call it strategic education, things that we can, education for ourselves and our family. And then there's the resiliency aspect that you brought in, too, that where we're investing to make sure that even where there are these disruptions in the global economy, that we're not hurt. Do you want to talk a little bit about those? Because there's some unique things that you're recommending in your book relating to these things.
Yeah, well, if I may, I think what I think would be good contextually first is to couch this all within what a person's view of the future really is, because that needs to be the context through which all investments occur. And I'll be more specific about that, because if you're somebody who believes in essentially the breakdown scenario of civilization, which is certainly one of the four major scenarios that could unfold, and that's a fairly pessimistic, not fairly, that is an extremely pessimistic perspective, well, then you're probably going to be investing in personal, tangible, and financial assets to prepare you because of your perception for that scenario that you think is the most likely to occur. And I think it's just important that if that's really who you are, that you know that. And conversely, there are several other possible future scenarios. All the way on the other extreme of the continuum is the breakthrough scenario that could be evolutionary transformation of consciousness, that we could have amazing shifts in how we perceive reality that could help people realize the interconnectedness of all beings, for example. We could have breakthroughs in technology that could solve the carbon-based energy crisis. We could have all kinds of geopolitical solutions that could do evolutionary things like get rid of the notion of countries, and we could operate as one planetary civilization. So these things are possibilities, and you might be a visionary dreamer type of person. That might be your primary way that you see reality and how you wish to operate in the world. Well, let's face it, if you're that type of human being, your strategies where you put your time, energy, and money are going to look fundamentally different than what the doomer is doing. The doomer is preparing for disaster. The dreamer is helping to design a new reality that can avert catastrophe and help lead us forward. And then we have the sort of muddle through scenarios, which you can muddle through with less extreme volatility, right? You can have ups and downs that are not quite so extreme. And so there's muddle through down, which is sort of like the long emergency. Some would argue that's sort of where we are right now, just kind of slowly declining in terms of our quality of life or the status of nature. And then there's muddle through up, which we would call incremental progress. Some would argue that our commitment to renewable energy and organic food and other types of things that the green economy is all about would be examples of how we are making incremental progress within the existing limits of the system. It's not necessarily about systemic change. It's about retrofitting and modifying current lifestyles to be a little bit more just and humane and sustainable. So I think we lead people through a process in this book of self-identification. I'm not taking a stand on this and telling people what the future holds, because the truth is nobody knows. But I think it is really important that people understand where they are on that continuum, because then you can make good life decisions. And the other thing that you can do is you can hedge against your own perspective, which is critical to the resilient mindset. Because what if you're wrong? What if the dreamer is wrong? What if the doomer is wrong? Wouldn't it make sense to be prepared for other possibilities? We could have a breakdown scenario. We could have a breakthrough scenario. We could have multiple scenarios interweaving simultaneously. So the point is, resilience is that don't be so attached to your own perception of the future. Don't get so locked in that you think you know what's going to happen, because then you're siloed in your thinking and you're not flexible, you're not adaptable, and you're certainly not planning for possibility. And to me, that is the core aspect of resilience.
Yes, wonderful. I'm glad you did back us up there, Michael, because as you share, we all have different investment profiles, and so we've got to really start from where we are. And that's one of the wonderful things you do here in the book as well, is just lay out these different scenarios and then give suggestions for ways to move forward where you're in one profile versus another. One of the things that we've seen, of course, recently is the so-called Brexit, which many feel is a move in a direction away from globalization and toward local economies and local farming and local cultures, et cetera. And that's something you talk a lot about in your book, is how we can invest locally. And you even bring in, like local exchanges that support local businesses and things. Do you want to talk a little about that? Because I suspect that my sense is that's the future.
Yeah, I think we're seeing relocalization and decentralization as a natural response to globalization. The thing is, globalization has two sides to it. One that's really positive and one that's sort of a shadow. So I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater in rejecting everything about globalization. But that being said, to answer your question, what's great about the localization movement is it really is about community self-reliance. And I think that is ultimately a very healthy thing, because people want to have more control over their own survival. And if they are dependent on forces outside of their community, there's a certain vulnerability there, because you don't own the assets in your community. You're not, the people who are making decisions about how you live your life are the people that you have no relationships with them. And I think we all understand what it feels like to live in a place where you have relationships with business leaders and community leaders, because there can be responsiveness, there can be feedback, there can be input. And that is really what makes us human. We do not want to be anonymous. And so one of the problems of globalization is anonymity. So relocalization helps us feel connected. It can feel connected to community, feel connected to business and commerce. And that is very meaningful. That gives people spiritual and emotional depth. And I think people are realizing once you move away from that, what it feels like to have that go missing. And so people are realizing, hey, that mattered. That really mattered. And I really like knowing the people who run these businesses. And I really like that they know me. And I really like that I can have an impact and make a difference in helping to steer the community in a way that I think is good. And I also think people want to be more self-reliant in the sense of having most of their survival needs provided for by the community. And I think that's also very healthy in the event of disruption. Our definition of resilience is that we have to improve our capacity to withstand shocks to the system. Well, if there are shocks to global trade, then communities that are well prepared for that by producing more of what they need rather than importing more of what they need, they're going to be stronger. They're going to be more capable of meeting the needs of their people. And that matters. And I think a lot of people are realizing that that matters, and they're investing time, energy, and money into creating more food, energy, shelter options and more diversified economic options that don't create dependence on forces outside their community. That being said, I'm actually not a big fan of Brexit because I think sometimes you can go too far, and I think Brexit was done based on fear rather than on this other impulse, which is really much more about community revitalization and regeneration.
Yes, no, I see that too. This it looks like it was similar to these concerns that are underneath of what Sanders was in Sanders' campaign and Trump's campaign. This sense that immigration is taking our jobs, it's holding a lid on our salaries, our income. It's this kind of thing that was the concern. And so this is where conscious business comes in, though, isn't it? Because where we create conscious business, which is to say responsible global business and local business, we can address these things. We can create these high quality jobs with good income. I think that is the answer to this problem that's being surfaced in these in politics here in the U.S. and in these activities that we see over in Europe.
Yeah, and I think more and more people are understanding that you may have to pay a price premium to buy something that's made in this country because our labor, our wages are higher here, so you're not going to get the cheapest stuff. But, people want quality. You got to pay for it. And all the outsourcing that's been done that has taken away a lot of jobs, people are obviously hurting with regards to that. And so all that pain and fear and anger is justified. I don't think it should lead to isolationism and an anti-immigration stance. It should actually be spawning community-based economic development rather than just casting blame and hatred and rage on those we think are taking things away from us. No one's taking anything away from us. We have all the power to create the reality that we want to see. We just have to focus. We just have to decide as communities and as countries to do it, and then it will be done. If we really care about that issue, we will make it happen instead of trying to cast blame on others. We have to take responsibility for our own livelihood and make it happen. We are an incredibly innovative species, and we're very creative. So it's really a shame to see the focus on sort of primal emotion without real solutions, at least at the national political level.
Yes. I think, and you're putting your finger on one of the big issues that I think is surfacing is, do we want to just save 50 cents a dollar on an item, or do we want the jobs? Because it's in many cases where we export the jobs to save a little money on the product, there go the jobs. And, of course, in the so-called Rust Belt here in the U.S., people are feeling the pain of that. So this is where this whole, what you're calling relocalization, is coming back, where we're just seeing the connection between these things better and realizing that we don't necessarily want to export the jobs, that we can build a healthier economy by relocalizing. And as you mentioned, not throwing the baby out with the bathwater either on a global level, because you have companies like Tesla and Unilever and others that are responsible, conscious businesses that are adding to what we have here.
Yeah, I don't think we should be anti-corporate. I mean, I don't think that makes any sense. Nobody can live a completely local life, or very few people truly can. So we're all participants in the global economy, and we all buy things made by companies. But we shouldn't assume that they're all evil, and we should definitely recognize and reward with our shopping and investment dollars the ones that are trying. They're trying to source things in their supply chain responsibly. They're trying to take care of their workers and not be exploited. They're aware of their energy and carbon footprint and are trying to do something about minimizing their harmful environmental impacts. They're trying to move, into more involvement with their employees in decision making and become more like co-ops and engagement to increase morale and productivity. They're trying to focus on quality. They're trying to give back to the community. They are being leaders in advocating for transparency, say, around disclosure of their corporate political contributions. I mean, there are companies that do share these types of consciousness values. Don't think they get any press. It's partially why the B Corp movement is important, because we need to get those stories out there. There are companies that are trying. I live in the corporate world and advocate with publicly traded companies and try to get them to adopt better policies all the time. And I understand the sort of anti-corporate sentiment that's out there. But these are just people. Companies are just people. They're just made of people. And once you have real conversations with their management, which I do, and you start talking about values, and you start talking about how values can actually improve the bottom line and how you can really make a difference and make money at the same time, you can start to open their mind and their way of thinking to not see these concepts as opposing. The old school is you make money and then you give to charity. And you can make money in any way you want, including exploitive ways, and then just wring your hands of the guilt by doing philanthropy. And that's a very old way of thinking. So we are seeing more and more companies, small and large, that understand that that's the left hand and the right hand not working in unison, and that if we really want to be much more responsible and have a greater impact, then we need to make money in a better way. And yes, there are limits to growth, and businesses cannot just keep using up all the resources on the planet. That is a very real problem. But at the same time, we can create consciousness and help them regenerate those resources. I'll give you a very specific example. I spent a year and a half with my industry with Costco. Costco is the world's largest retailer of seafood, and they were slowly depleting a whole lot of fisheries around the planet because of their business model. And so we just went to them and we spent a year and a half with them trying to help them develop a sustainable seafood policy so that they could allow some of these endangered species to recover. And we were essentially trying to make the business case that, look, you're not going to have anything to sell here if you just sell the last remaining species. And so we, got them to agree. And so they are no longer selling 12 endangered species so that those fisheries can replenish. They're investing in feedstocks and whatnot to actually facilitate and expand the recovery of those fisheries. They're moving into more wild rather than farm raised. They're holding their shellfish manufacturers in Southeast Asia to higher environmental standards. So, I think sometimes you can raise consciousness within a business and it can have an enormous impact on the whole planet. When a company like Costco makes a significant shift like that, it changes the course of civilization. And that's why I do it. I recognize that it's only one small piece, but it's a really important piece because they have a lot of power.
Yes, they do. That's awesome. Yes, and of course I'm a business person by background too, and they're just following the norms that have been passed down generation to generation. And so, and one of the things about business people is they love this, these BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. They love challenges. And so just putting this challenge in front of them of, hey, how do we create flourishing and prosperity for all of the earth as we create profits that many of them will embrace this, and so that's wonderful that you're working alongside organizations like Costco. And as you mentioned, too, for all of us on the phone, that we're consumers, and so we can recognize and reward the conscious businesses through the purchase decisions we make. So one of the things we can do is just really spend time coming to understand the vendors that we buy from, and are they conscious? What are their practices? Really getting on top of that, because most of us would say we're not on top of that insofar as all of the vendors that we buy from. So we'll certainly, and we'll be talking lots more about that here this year and next year, and you I love that these organizations you're involved in, Michael, are also focusing on that. Let me come to a question here because we've got several questions, a bunch of them that have come in. This is from Daniel in Fayetteville, and Daniel says, "Do you have any idea about how my mother, an elderly pensioner, should invest her money? She is 87 and has about $300,000 to invest. We have been fairly careful with low-risk investing. Is there something you could recommend right off the top of your head?"
Well, it wouldn't be wise for me to give investment advice to someone I don't know. But that being said, there are conservative fixed income investments that have a socially responsible tilt. For example, you can do bonds in socially responsible companies. They're always looking to borrow money. You can do bonds in municipalities and at the state government level that are investing in things that you believe in. And it just requires selectivity to think about, what are you supporting with those bonds? Are you supporting a nuclear power plant or a coal-fired power plant or suburban sprawl, or are you supporting public transportation or hospitals or things that you find ethically acceptable? So part of what we do in our industry is help filter, the selection process so that you can live with what you own. And so that's going to be very personal, and that's going to be very, different for everybody. But there certainly are plenty of conservative ways to do it. You can invest in affordable housing, mortgage-backed securities, for example, in affordable housing, and multifamily apartments and things that are designed for more low-income people. So there's lots of things you can do to try to help the community and society. You can invest in green bonds that are trying to retrofit housing and business to become much more operated by renewable energy and whatnot. So there's a lot out there that can be conservative. Definitely for the risk averse, there's plenty of investment opportunities. There's also community banks and credit unions and international microfinance funds that are essentially loaning money to low-income people domestically and all over the world that are trying to help people get into home ownership, to start small businesses. There's lots of community development financial institutions in this country that have that mission, that are trying to help the marginalized in our system to get to develop economic power. And we're very committed to that in our industry, trying to really help strengthen those organizations because they tend to have lower default rates. They're focused on a mission of helping the people who need it the most. They're not taking excessive risk that some of the big mega banks are doing. So it is important to sort of break up with your big bank and really look at, how your savings and checking and loan funds and international microfinance can really make a little bit of money while also making an enormous positive social impact on the planet. So those are just some examples of some of the categories that are possible.
Michael, how would Daniel find a local advisor, and do you advise people? You're in Hawaii. Do you advise people that are not there local near you? And if so, how would they reach out to you?
So we are a national company, so we have 10 offices in 8 states around the company, and we serve clients in all 50 states. So people can certainly get in touch with me through naturalinvestments.com. We have a contact form. You can email me, michael@naturalinvestments.com, and we can find somebody in the same time zone or the same state to work with anybody who would like to explore how to do this. It's really very easy. And I have lots of clients I've never met because they're halfway across the country. So it's totally fine. We have a team of people that are all very committed to this. And this is all that we do. It's not some sideshow. We are exclusively devoted to sustainable and responsible and impact investing. And we've been doing it for 30 years. So it's definitely our specialty.
Great. I'm sure you'll have people reaching out to you. Kathy from Canada comes in with this. This is just a comment. She says, "Thank you. I finally understand my resistance to financial advice that was more of a doomer view. I never could articulate why it was not something I felt good about, but now that I clearly understand it has to do with my view of the future, it makes so much sense to me." So a thank you there to you, Michael. Let's see, there's a person here that is asking a question. more having to do with our connection and diversity. It's Ram in Kirpa. And Ram says people are growing in a world full of divisions based on eating, taboos, and interdictions, clothing differences, which depict one's faith, language difference. How to realize oneness if one does not transcend the system in which he has grown up. I can answer that, but did you want to say something about this too, Mark?
Well, why don't you go get started, and I'll follow up on what you say.
Yeah, this is, one of the things when we talk about our connection and oneness, we also talk about our diversity and oneness, which is so wonderful and beautiful that the oneness says that the divine is omnipresent in all of life, which means that we can go within, we can quiet the world around us, go within, and create a friendship and even communion experience with the divine. And that's an opportunity for all of us. As we do that, then we're guided to different things, passions, different interests, jobs, relationships, etc. And this is where the diversity comes in, that our talents are quite different. Usually the guidance we're given is quite different. And so in this case, as you mentioned, Ram, that means our food, our language, our culture, our clothes, all of these things are quite different. But that is, I see it as a beauty of oneness, of the diversity of oneness, that there are all these beautiful cultural expressions. Because imagine how boring the world would be if we all had the same clothes and wore this and ate the same foods and enjoyed the same culture. Whereas, of course, it's quite different when we travel the world and meet people from these diverse backgrounds. It's so interesting just to hear their perspective and to meet them and to learn from them. So oneness, as we talk about it in the humanities team, is just realizing this ultimate reality that has been talked about over the millennia, literally, that goes back to the Upanishads and other material in BC, that says that everything is a part of one thing, which is to say then that we're a cell in a body that we could call universe or earth. We could call it the divine. We could call it God. We could, the many things that we could call it, but that we're all cells in that one body. And if that's true, then that just means that, of course, we want to be a healthy cell, which is nurturing the body, and healthy cells nurture themselves too, which is, as we're talking about investing, we're creating prosperity and abundance for ourselves and our family, but we're also creating prosperity and abundance for our community and the world around us. So oneness is just saying we're coming from that perspective of a cell in a body, where we're looking to nurture this larger self with a capital S, that where our worldview is that humanity and the earth and all of life on earth is a part of ourself. We're directly connected to it, and therefore we want to nurture it, and there's a responsibility for it. So that's what I would share. But Michael, please come in here too.
Yeah, I would say that you have to have a feeling of surplus in order to be able to really nurture anything outside of yourself. And I think one of the things that I see very clearly, all the pain and anger that is there in the world likely comes from people not really feeling like they have surplus. And so there's a lot of deep psychological woundedness that is just pervasive, especially in Western civilization. And that leads to a feeling of insecurity. And it's really impossible to be generous of spirit when your own heart is unfulfilled. And I think that, it's very easy to blame anything outside of yourself for interrupting your experience of oneness. But really, it all comes back to your own perception of reality, right? So the only way to fix that is not by looking outside of yourself, but by looking inside and seeing how you can heal all those wounds that interrupt your capacity to feel oneness. Because once you really feel it, it's amazing how much love you can give. And then you can heal your relationships. You can find right livelihood. You can create the spirit of community. You can reconnect to nature and help to regenerate it. And I would argue we can evolve, consciousness overall as a civilization, but it has to start at the very personal level, what I would call zone zero. where, you know, if you don't have it to give, then there is nothing to give, and then all you're doing in the world is looking to take energy from others. And you can't experience oneness if you're in take mode. It only really happens when you're in giving mode. And that's really, I mean, it is what this book is about. You know, it is about figuring out how you can increase the reciprocity of all of your relationships to nature, to people. Without that, we are not whole. And there's a lot of healing that we all still have to do. Our society reflects the lack of oneness and wholeness, but there's enough of us out there who are trying to do something about it, thankfully. And we are a community that is growing, and that's why I'm an optimist. That's why I'm a dreamer, because I see that reality and I see those people, and there are a lot of us, and we just have to keep on keeping on, planting these seeds. Some of them will germinate, some of them won't. We have to be persistent and patient at the same time, because the cosmic unfolding doesn't happen when we need it to or want it to, but we just have to do what we're here to do.
Yeah, I'm into that. I should also bring in, Michael and I actually met through a common friend who also lives in Hawaii, Doreen Virtue, and she's wonderful. She also has a huge Facebook page, which you should friend if you haven't already, Doreen Virtue. And when we talk about this aspect of just coming from a place of giving and health and well-being and vitality, which is this whole inner journey. Boy, Doreen is so big in that world. And, of course, these angel cards and this whole aspect of all of the resources of the divine that are here always, that are present to help us and help humanity. She is such a blessing to so many people here in talking about how we can enrich our inner life and create that real beautiful experience of connection with the divine and live it in our values in the same way that Michael's describing. Let me bring in another question. This is from Anna in Barcelona. And so, boy, big shout out to you, Anna. One of the things I love about this program is people are from all over the world that are coming in with their questions, and it's fun. And so Anna says, hello from Barcelona. I am curious about both of your lives, Steve and Michael. Who do you surround yourselves with in business, and how do you make these important connections? Do you want to go first on that one, Michael, or do you want me to?
I guess maybe I'll start this time. And, you know, I would say that I live in a bubble. It's a beautiful, big, green bubble. I just try to surround myself with people who are aligned with my values. And it can be lonely at times, because when you're on the leading edge of something or you're pioneering something, you're a minority. And I have felt on the fringe of mainstream society for my entire life, but I'm comfortable there, and I manage to, by just being who I am, magnetically draw like-mindedness to me. And so it's a fabulous feeling. And I have to say, one of the reasons that I am more optimistic now than ever, which is great, because I don't want to be one of these angry, cynical curmudgeon as I age, is that there's more and more people like me than ever. You know, we are, and especially I'm encouraged by the millennials and the values that the younger generation has. They are much more awake and aware of the world and committed to conscious business and economic development than I ever was at their age. And so that gives me encouragement. I think the more we have continued to plant these seeds, you know, these young people, a lot of them are just raised this way, and they have a certain understanding about well-being and health and community vitalization that I think is really exciting. And they're very entrepreneurial too, because the system itself is not taking care of them anymore. So they are being forced to innovate, to be more self-determinant, and they seek me out. I get a lot of people approaching me who are looking for capital, of course. I guess I must have a ATM tattooed on my forehead or something. But, you know, I get exposed to a lot of innovation that's going on out there. And to me, it makes me enthusiastic and hopeful about the future in the face of everything that's crumbling and everything that's wrong with how our system is organized. I feel like we are slowly realizing that this is a sick system that we can fix. And once you start circulating around those people who share that, it gets very contagious and it gets very exciting. And it's a global phenomenon. There are impact hubs of triple bottom line social entrepreneurship centers on every continent on this planet. And that to me is very good news. And B Corps are worldwide as well. So, this is definitely a watershed moment in our history that thankfully is happening. I'm happy to be a part of it, and I think it's something to be excited about.
Yes, it is. Yeah, beautiful, Michael. And likewise, for me, people may know, because I sometimes share, I was an entrepreneur in Silicon Valley, and I was there in the 90s, which was such a great time to be in Silicon Valley because there was so much growth. And I was in digital communications, and gosh, we were just growing like crazy. But in that time frame, I was also just reading a lot of spiritual material and really got in touch with this truth that we are all one, that everything is interconnected, interrelated, and interdependent. And I could see that what it was really about is real intrinsic value, which is, I think, what this book is about, the resilient investor that we're talking about. It's about real wealth, not just financial wealth. And I realized that I was kind of playing a kid's game, in Silicon Valley, where I was focused on creating financial wealth for myself and my shareholders. I was looking for revenue and profit growth year over year that didn't have any real regard for the planet or humanity. And we made adjustments so that our organization could really be quite philanthropic and adopted schools and other things. But I felt that it was so small scale, what I could do in my own companies when the earth around me was so challenged, that it just felt like I was, again, playing a kid's game, just growing my companies and selling them. And so I decided I'd just stand in my truth and my authenticity and leave business and come together with others that could see that the earth was challenged and get involved in educational programs and community programs and things that could help steer this earth and this world in the direction that was healthy. And so I left in the 90s, and here we are in 2016, and look how far we've come. It's incredible. And everybody tells me the same thing, which is what I experience, which is when we make that decision and stand in that truth and really stand in the truth that that we are all one with divine presence, with divine source, with divine oneness, and then we live that way. So in the purchase decisions we make, the house we buy, the car we drive, etc., then the universe responds. There's this boomerang effect where what we throw out in good works comes back to us manyfold. In Scripture, they say, give unto the kingdom, and all things are given unto you. And that's been my experience. It's just these synchronicities and transcendent living. And there's so many incredible things that come back to you. Anna, your question was, who do I surround myself in business? As Michael mentioned, once I devoted myself to this, all of these incredible business leaders like Michael, Ronaldo Brudico, who leads the World Business Academy, and Kim Wilbur, and Paul Pullman, who I don't know in person, but who runs Unilever, who's involved with the Conscious Business Declaration, Andy Cunningham, who also is out on the front line as we're reaching out to organizations about conscious business. These incredible people come into my life that share the same vision and that are also wanting to be instruments of change, and all of these good things happen. So I don't know. I think it's just about really getting in touch with what our truth is, and then really embracing that fully, and not trying to have stand in ambivalence or partitioning our life where, some people are worried about their spiritual life coming into business. I myself don't advocate that. I certainly we might want to be careful of the words we use, but I think we just, what's worked for me is just being totally authentic and truthful in how I'm living my life, and then incredible friends show up, and coworkers, and programs and projects, and all of the kinds of things that we're blessed to be part of in Humanity's team. Well,
Yeah, I mean, life is just what we focus on, right?
yeah, absolutely. It is, Michael. I love, by the way, near the end of your book, and we only have 5 minutes, so if you can, in a second, I'm going to just invite you to spend 30 seconds just sharing how people can stay in touch with you, Michael. But I wanted to say, near the end of your book, I love this, that you say the capitalist era is passing, not quickly but inevitably. A new economic paradigm, the collaborative commons, is rising in its wake that will transform our way of life. Indeed, we can see the old model of competing self-interest, one fostered by the invisible hand, Adam Smith precepts, shifting toward an invisible heart approach of lateral networks that reward one's contribution to the common good. More people are coming to realize how entwined we are with one another and with the geochemistry of the planet in a rich and complex choreography that sustains life itself. This growing empathic awareness exerts an irrepressible tug, calling on each of us to play our part in ensuring the well-being of future generations and the biosphere. So I just wanted to bring that in. I love that. It's near the end of your book. And we're talking, of course, about Michael Kramer's book. He co-wrote this with 2 others. It's called The Resilient Investor, A Plan for Your Life, Not Just for Your Money. And I highly recommend this book. You can, of course, buy it at Amazon or local bookstores. Michael, how can people continue to follow you and your work?
Well, sure. We have 2 websites, naturalinvestments.com and resilientinvestor.com. And both offer ways to get in touch with any of the people that are part of our firm. You can certainly email me at michael@naturalinvestments.com. We have Facebook pages for both Natural Investments and Resilient Investor. We have blogs on both of our websites where we're constantly highlighting things that are going on, the latest exciting evolutionary investment strategies that we get excited about. So it's kind of a way to stay current. We obviously didn't put every amazing strategy in our book. The websites really take care of that. And that's the easy way to stay in touch. And we would like people to download a blank resilient investing map and kind of fill it out yourself and upload it back to the website. Let people see what you're doing to try to create more resilience in your own life. We want to hear how people are taking on our framework and applying it in their own lives. I've had some amazing feedback from people who really feel empowered as a result of using the tools that we've created.
Awesome. Well, I certainly encourage everybody to do that. And again, talking to Michael Kramer, and I encourage you to reach out to him. Just terrific work you and your partners are doing, Michael. And so thank you so much for this wisdom-filled hour. Wow, it's been just awesome. I've loved the hour, and it's gone fast. Let me just go to some announcements here real quick. As I mentioned when we were talking, Humanities Team, the Club of Budapest, the Goy Peace Foundation, and the Fowler Center for Business out of Case Western Reserve University did create a conscious business declaration that defines a whole new standard for business in the 21st century. It shares we must increase economic prosperity while contributing to a healthy environment and improving human well-being, where we move beyond this almost exclusive focus on profit. If you go to consciousdeclaration.org, you can read about it, and if you resonate with it, I invite you to sign it and become an ambassador for it. Also, there are 2 initiatives that we're launching out of that collaboration beyond the declaration. We're going to create a Conscious Business Day. Those people that sign the declaration now will go to a repository and report that we'll bring to our UN sponsor. We're hoping it might be Japan to create this Conscious Business Day, Japan's delegation to the United Nations. And we're also going to create a Conscious Business designation for businesses by mid next year. So we're real excited about that. We have some upcoming programs I don't want you to miss. Be sure to join us next week on Thursday, August 4th. We'll be interviewing Mark Nepo, and we'll be discussing with him The Only Life We Are Given, Finding the Wisdom That Waits in Your Heart. That call is at 9 o'clock Pacific time. And Annette Kennedy and Dee Meyer are going to be the leaders on that call. So I invite you to check that out. If you go to livinginone.com, you can see all of our upcoming speakers and programs. All of the programs are free. And if you miss the live program, we do send out a thank you note with a recorded link for 48 hours free listening. Our program has focused on living in oneness, so I want to invite you to be part of something Humanities Team created called Community Circle. It's only $10 a month, and it's for those who wish to be part of an intentional community committed to living and embodying oneness, those who want to collaborate and connect with leaders engaged in spiritual activism, a community that gives and receives support, a program that gives you access to all of our audio links to the Living in Oneness Summit, Global Oneness Day, and more. There are over 350 programs that you and your family can listen to anytime, anywhere. There's a private Facebook community, and we also have calls now once a week on Friday afternoons and Saturday mornings for Community Circle members where we come together to share in a more intimate setting about our successes and challenges in our journey in oneness. So I invite you to go to the humanitiesteam.org website. If you scroll down to the rectangle about halfway down, you can get more details on Community Circle. Okay, thanks again, Michael, Kramer. Thank you so much for spending this hour with me. I really appreciate it. It's been awesome having you. Also want to thank my partners and colleagues here, Nanette Kennedy and Dee Meyer, who are running this program, who created it, bringing in your questions and creating the promotions and other communications for the program. Then last and definitely not least, I want to thank all of you, our listeners, who've made it a priority to be here with us this afternoon. Thank you so much. And in closing, I want to invite everyone on this call to really live as one with the divine and each other. This is ultimate reality, and this is one of the best ways to spread the invitation of oneness. And it's how we'll create the world that we've all dreamed about and envisioned. As we know, we already are all one, so let's embody it. Okay, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next Thursday, August 4th at 9 o'clock Pacific time when we're back on the air with Mark Nepo. Take care, everybody. Take care, Michael, Nanette, Dee. Talk soon, everybody. Bye-bye.